So in other news, it looks like Eliot Wolf, the Patriots director of scouting, is essentially the de facto GM. I believe it was Ian Rappaport reported that he is going to be in charge of personnel, both in terms of the front office and the coaching staff working alongside Gerard Mayo. And look, I'm glad it's not Matt Groh, who seems to be in charge of handling college scouting. He was seen all over the place at Senior Bowl practices. We don't know how much of these mistakes in terms of free agency and draft the last few seasons were Matt Groh or Bill Belichick. But either way, it's good to have somebody who is familiar with the Patriot way, but is a different decision maker coming in and being that de facto GM. And that's what it looks like Eliot Wolf is going to be. And Wolf is bringing back a lot of the pieces that he's worked with during his time before he was with the Patriots, when he worked in both Green Bay with that Aaron Rodgers-led West Coast offense, and when he was back in Cleveland. Some of the additions that the Patriots have made of recent under this new Eliot Wolf regime is Alonzo Highsmith. He was added as a personnel executive. He worked with Wolf in both Cleveland and Green Bay. They added Jerry Montgomery as a defensive line coach, who also worked with Wolf in Green Bay as well. Scott Peters, he's the new offensive line coach. You look all over X, people have nothing but great things to say about Scott Peters. I think he's going to be a real improvement from Adrian Clem. I guess he has like an MMA jiu-jitsu type background, which is vital when you're trying to incorporate a West Coast offense. He's been in Cleveland since 2020, and if you look at those offensive lines for the Browns, I know the Browns are the Browns, but that's a unit that has not had the issues relative to some of their other units. I think Scott Peters is a great hire for that job. TC McCartney also spent the last 4 years in Cleveland. He was most recently spent time in Cleveland as the tight ends coach. He's going to run the quarterbacks room in New England. Not to mention they added Alex Van Pelt as the offensive coordinator and Ben McAdoo, who both of those guys overlapped with Eliot Wolf during his time in Green Bay. So, look, I'm not sure I love this, but basically the Packers and Browns offenses are coming to New England. And we know that offense needs to be modernized. Really, one of the first things Gerard Mayo has prioritized since being named as head coach is giving a real facelift to that offense, moving to a more simplified West Coast system that has certainly worked with Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. It might be more of an old school system, but I'm sure they're going to incorporate a lot of new school elements. It's going to look a lot different, but basically Cleveland and Green Bay, go look at what they've done offensively for the last 5 to 6 seasons, and you'll understand a little bit better of what the Patriots are going to be doing on offense going forward. Now, some of these front office changes are very minor. They're still continuing, again, keeping Matt Groh in a lesser role and elevating Eliot Wolf to basically the director of personnel, the de facto GM. But it is very possible that there are more drastic changes to the front office taking place after the NFL draft in late April. This is very common in the NFL. Teams like to have continuity heading into the offseason. Certainly Robert Kraft has stressed we want continuity here. We're not just going to completely change everything. And teams like to do that because they have front office staff that have been scouting throughout the previous season. You're not just going to get rid of them all heading into the draft because you've acquired a lot of information throughout that time. So if the Patriots are going to name a formal GM or really flip the front office on its head, it probably would not happen until after the NFL draft. That being said, it looks like as of right now, Eliot Wolf, I'm not sure he'll formally be named the GM. The Patriots haven't named a GM in a couple of decades, maybe even longer than that, but it looks like he's going to be in that role. That's it for this episode of Pat's Cast. Unless there's any major breaking news in the meantime, we'll be back next week. You like what you're seeing here on YouTube, be sure to like this video and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, particularly on Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you next week.